Good evening. It is Wednesday, April the 7th, about 9:10 p.m. My name is Shay Gibson with Weather Flow. This is the Chucktown Wind Report brought to you by Wind Alert. We're going to go ahead and talk about winds and weather for the next 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Charleston Fort to Battery race starts tomorrow with the foilers, so good luck to all the racers for the foiling events and for the big event on Saturday as 81 of us race across the harbor, either from the Fort to Battery or Battery to Fort. Not sure which way it's going to go. I think Tim Fitzgerald's got the course layout, so we'll see him tomorrow night at the James Island Yacht Club for the pre-race event and get the skinny on that. So let's go ahead and talk about winds and weather. Today we had a cold front move through the area and then strong westerlies behind that along a decent gradient. We met some 20s and then it backed down into the upper teens this afternoon with high pressure building in from the west. Now we have another cold front dropping down tonight. This may show a couple of spotty showers to the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning, but then as the sun comes up, we should dry out a little bit. Not expecting a lot of rain. This is a weaker front. It should go through overnight, and then we have another high pressure ridge building in from the west that will provide another westerly flow for tomorrow. Now the gradient's going to depend on this area of troughing. If it sticks over our area and then we have this westerly wedge coming in, that may help create the gradient between the high pressure in the Gulf as well, and so we may be right there in this zonal flow to get a decent gradient to get 14 to 18 knots. That's what I called for tomorrow in our pro forecast with Wind Alert, iKitesurf, and all of our other apps and products. So I'm going to stick to that and add some potential tomorrow afternoon for numbers to come up, especially the gust lines coming up into the lower, even mid-20s at times. Our averages could meet the 20-knot marks, but I'm going to stick for 14 to 18 for now. That should be just enough for all those foilers to have some pretty good speeds out there. As we get into Saturday, these low pressures that are dropping the fanning cold fronts below it are going to move off the coastline tomorrow. This low pressure up here is the one I'm going to be watching. Now as it drops down over the Great Lakes, it's going to gain a little bit of momentum, and then it's going to gain a little bit of momentum as it heads down into this area. Once it's down here, we need to watch what the gradient build between that and the high pressure ridge here to the west and the south is going to be doing for our area. So the battlefront between these two creates stronger winds. So the models have been jumping around on this for the last few days and trying to develop this low pressure. It's just hard to say how strong it's going to be. We do know that it looks like it will strengthen as it goes off the coastline, so the gradient could be building throughout the day on Saturday with a westerly or even west-northwest flow. I'm a little concerned that it might go full northwest by mid-afternoon, but we shouldn't go there yet. We'll know more about that tomorrow and watch as that low pressure develops. As we get into Sunday, we see high pressure moving in from the east and moving over our coastline. So the morning hours we see a northerly flow, and then that sort of bends out to the northeast, and then eventually that high pressure transfers out here into the Atlantic, and we get a southerly flow building in by about early to mid-afternoon, especially if those winds die down below about 6 or 7 knots. We'll get a default coastal ridge right about here, and then high pressure out here. We'll get a southerly sea breeze commencing by afternoon hours. So looking like it could be about 9 to 13 knots, but it's a little early to call on that yet. It just looks like the winds are going to clock from all the way from northwest to north to northeast, east, and all the way around to the south throughout the day. So it looks like kind of a weak wind pattern, but we'll know more about that as we get into tomorrow and Saturday. So looking at the model guidance for this, here's the GFS, what I was talking about. Watching this area up here to the northwest of the Great Lakes, we see that low pressure developing right there along Pennsylvania, and then high pressure ridge over here over the Gulf states, and that's what's going to create that gradient along our area for Saturday. So this is at Saturday morning, and then if we keep going one more time into the afternoon, that's where we see the gradient building between the two, and the temperatures will drop Saturday night, so we'll probably get some low temperatures in the cooler ranges. But the main thing is watching the gradient between the high pressure out here, the low pressure over here, and what happens along our coastline. So I think we're looking in pretty good shape for the race. Looking like I'm going to go ahead and call for 17 to 21 knots for Saturday afternoon, just based on some of that criteria. We'll have to wait and see as far as tomorrow how that works out. So looking at the GRU on radar, you can get a better idea of all this troughing that's moving down through the area along the southern ends of these low pressures to the north. We'll have that next one dropping down, but probably might see a few clouds overnight. Maybe some of these isolated spotty showers could make it to the coastline. Our air is looking rather dry, and then we have this zonal area right here. This is where the gradient is, so the winds could actually pick up overnight tonight between this drier air and this moisture air and this zonal flow moving through, and we'll be watching that tomorrow. So Let's take a look at Datascope for Charleston. I want to look at the local area and see what the winds are doing. And right now, I think winds backed off just a little while ago. Right now, yeah, we're sitting light west to west-southwest at 6 knots and not looking too strong out there. The beach is a little bit less. Of course, those are land shadow. Those are offshore. And here's your wind graph. Things have died off since the sun has gone down. The temperatures are cooled, and some of those radiational properties driving those westerlies have backed down as well. So we'll expect those numbers to come back up tomorrow morning when the sun comes up and starts those radiational properties again. Here are the details. These details are from the Fort Sumter Front Range lights. I'm going to go ahead and look at the model guidance for this. Make sure I select all. And let's go ahead and go into time. So here we are for tomorrow morning. Looks like we have some squirrely winds overnight, a little bit of westerly, maybe northwesterly, land breezing directions. And then as the sun comes up, we see these numbers start to climb as the winds try to shift southwest on a sea breeze while they're light. And then the westerlies take over from that high pressure to the west, and then we see the numbers come up. So by tomorrow afternoon, some of these models are only bringing it to about low teens, maybe mid-teens peaks. The GFS and the WaveWatch 3 model do bring these up to the upper teens by around 4, somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I might have to agree with those numbers coming up a little bit earlier, around 1 o'clock. So 14 to 18 knots by at least noon to 1 o'clock tomorrow is my call on that, with a straight westerly flow. Now as we get into Saturday, let me back up just a second there. Here's that gradient I was talking about. There's the northwest winds. They shift north Saturday night. Let me back up just a little bit. They shift a little bit on the northwest by Friday night into Saturday, based on that low pressure to the north. Then they start to sort of even out to a more uniform west-northwest flow, and you can see that some of the model guidance here has the winds really coming up Friday night and then sort of dipping and then coming back up again. And that's based on sort of a meandering gradient through the area. The models will probably straighten out, and I'm expecting this flow to be 17 to 21 knots and possibly even higher than that for Saturday with some of those gust marks coming up. And then as we get into Sunday, we see those winds clocking around to the north and then over to the northeast and then to the southeast by the end of the day. The numbers look a little bit stronger early morning on the northeast flow. We may see an east-northeast flow lock in by late morning once the sun comes up and the sea breezes couple just for a little while before they lean all the way east and then sort of back off and then clock over to southeast and come down even further in speeds. So GFS guidance here, you can see the Quick Look Plus, I believe that's a blended model. So if you're looking at the Quick Look Plus, I do caution that it's a triple blend model with a HER3 going to the NAM12 and then out to the GFS. So you might be better off looking at each individual model and then deciding for yourself what size kite or what size gear you're going to be using. We'll know more tomorrow about Saturday for the big race, but as far as the foilers, you guys are looking in good shape for tomorrow, so no worries there. Might need to drop down a size in kite or two, but other than that, looking good. And I think that's going to do it for the Chucktown Wind Report. Good luck to all you racers. I'll try to get back on tomorrow to do another video for an update for Saturday. If not, I'll see you at the Yacht Club and do a live one there.